Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is Tim here with the TMA Connection, a local podcast that focuses on the people that are making a difference in the lives of others. And man, we got the OG of podcasting and marketing in Harford County. Man, I am blessed to have somebody with greatness right across the hall right across the table from me. He's the owner of Harford County Living. He's an owner of Dan Ben, which I want to hear more about. He's a former Marine. Thank you for your service.
Still a Marine. Once a Marine, always
Once a Marine, always a Marine. And he is the podcast host of Conversations with Rich Bennett. Ladies and gentlemen, Rich Bennett.
Man, thanks. I think that's the first time I've ever been called the OG.
The OG, man.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure my wife has a different meaning for that.
Yeah. Well, the kids say original gangster, but you know.
I always thought that's what it was.
That's what it is. That's right. Exactly. So, no, I've been following you for a while now, and when I first started getting into podcasting, probably about 2 years ago. I mean, we've evolved quite a bit.
You've only been doing it for 2 years?
I think so.
I thought you've been doing it longer than
maybe
that.
a little bit longer.
Okay.
Yeah, we had different like the TMA show, TMA Connection show, a whole bunch of names, and
went through the same thing.
But I was just looking back at that the other day. It's like, oh my God, that was so bad. And I'm sure in 10 years from now, I'm going to say, oh my God, this is so bad.
Never delete the old episodes.
No.
I learned from another podcaster that, because I go back and listen to my original ones, I'm like, man, that was awful.
Cringy.
Yeah. I mean, that's like,
right?
Man.
God, so you've been at podcasting for a while now.
10 years.
10 years.
This is my 10th year. It actually started as a YouTube show.
Okay.
And it would air on Saturday mornings. At that time was The Point.
Uh-huh.
And the first episode we recorded, halfway through, the guy running the camera was like, Rich, we got a problem. I said, what's the matter? He said, the camera's not working.
Oh, no.
I said, did you test it? He said, it's brand new out of the box. It was working fine.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed because the first episode I had 3 breast cancer survivors on.
Mm.
And after we were done, I had to take photos and everything and then piece together the YouTube thing.
Yeah.
That also told me I only have a face for audio and not video. So if the camera breaks, it's not my fault. Just warning you right now.
Keep checking that, Drew.
Yeah. So that's when I started. And those episodes that I did for YouTube, I never put on the regular podcast.
Okay.
So I'm slowly but surely listening to them, pulling up the old files.
Yep.
Because some of them really hold no relevance now. And this is something I learned a long time. Well, I learned throughout the years. With a podcast, you want evergreen content. Mm-hmm. In other words, you don't really want to talk about events that are coming up. Because if I mention an event coming up next week, when somebody's listening to your show a year from now,
right.
It holds no relevance.
You really do, when you record things, you really got to be considerate of the time element of what you're talking about. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it came time to renew the contract at the radio station, I didn't renew, and my sponsor at the time, because I had a sponsor for that, because I had to pay the radio station to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wasn't an employee of the station.
Okay.
So I got a sponsor, and when it came time to renew, I said no, because I really wasn't getting anything from it. I was getting more people watching it on YouTube, just photos pieced together.
Right.
And my understanding was nobody was listening to it on the radio station. Plus, the owner at the time was putting commercials in, which you're not supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be just my sponsor. So my sponsor said, it was a restaurant. They said, we have a side room. Why don't you turn it into a podcast and record there?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I listen to podcasts. I mean, I can do that.
Right.
Have my DJ equipment. We'll do that. Started doing that, and then later on, the restaurant started getting crowded,
mm-hmm.
and the noise was coming through. So it's like, oh man, this is gonna be hard. And my brother-in-law said, why don't you? Because I'm in the Lions Club. Said, why don't you do it at the clubhouse? It's secluded. There's no windows.
Right.
I was like, great idea. So we started doing it there. And at the time, I was dropping 1 episode a month.
Okay.
And then it just progressed from there.
Yeah. So now you're doing 3 episodes a week.
A week. And I got some people want me to drop an episode every day.
That's
I
nuts.
was like, that's what I said.
That's nuts.
And I know I have friends that do that.
I do one a week, and
It's a lot of
and
work.
that's more than I
Yeah.
can sometimes handle.
So yeah, I drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I record. Usually, I'll record on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, but anywhere from 3 to 8 episodes in that time, because I save Mondays and Tuesdays for stuff like this, and I also I host the podcast for the Hartford County Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So we record on those days. So I keep those dates saved for that and
Right.
other things. So
Right. Now, when you're bringing in guests, are you are you trying to batch like 2 or 3 guests at a time? Are you shooting back to back to back? How's that logistics for you?
I was doing that at first, but it's hard because I'm old school. To me, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. So I don't want them back to back to back because people will show up late.
Right.
People will get lost, especially if I'm recording in person.
Yeah.
And with my episodes, my shortest one was like 15 minutes. My longest episode was 2.5 hours.
Go, Joe Rogan.
So you never know how long. I don't have a time limit. We get into the conversation and it just keeps going.
So you just go in without any expectation of how long this episode is going to be.
Well, usually now I'll try to keep it to an hour.
Okay.
And you've had Wendy on your episode before. Wendy Beck, Rich Against Addiction.
Yep, absolutely.
So she co-hosts with me a lot, and when she's co-hosted with me, oh yeah, she'll keep me on target.
Oh, good.
And she'll wrap it up.
I feel like I need to sometimes put like a big clock up there, like a timer, because I get so wrapped up in the conversation and all,
Yeah.
And usually, 30 to 40 minutes is a good time frame for me. And lately, we've been shooting like 60-minute plus episodes, and it's like,
which is great.
Because you get just lost in the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and this is something I learned too, because a lot of people getting into podcasts and they'll say, oh, well, 30 minutes is too long, whatever. 20 hours is too long. 3 hours is too long.
Right.
Something about podcasting versus radio and TV. Do you know what podcast has that radio and TV doesn't?
Oh,
Other radio and TV.
TV
does now, but I don't think radio does.
I was going to say other than commercials, but you can even have commercials during a podcast.
Pause button.
Right.
So people can pause your episode and then come back and listen to the rest of it later.
Yeah.
So to me, it doesn't matter how long your podcast is. If the content is good, people are going to continue to listen. And that's the key.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's where a lot of podcasters are missing the boat. But it's fun. I love it.
Yeah.
I've learned so much from doing this.
Right.
And which is one of the reasons I started. I started it to promote the local businesses and to learn.
Yeah.
Now, man.
See, that's the stage I'm in at right now. It's just trying to get the brand awareness of who we are out there. I mean, we sell real estate. Somebody asked me at the gym the other day, it's like, do you buy and sell houses anymore? Or are you just shooting podcasts? and I was like, that there's plenty of time in the day to get the things that you want to get done and do it effectively, and not let the business suffer or anything like that. But
you're doing something smart that I think a lot of businesses are missing out on too.
What's that?
You're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
I think businesses should. I don't care what type of business you're doing. Do a podcast about it.
Yeah.
That way everybody's hearing more about you because, as you know, you are your brand. People want to see that face. Maybe not mine so much, but
I'm not that desirable either.
But they like to put a face to it.
Right.
And it's funny how I never thought this would happen, but we were, where was it? The Havre Grace Parade. I'm just walking around and somebody's like, Rich Bennett? So it even happened to me down in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, hey, Rich Bennett. They recognize the voice.
Okay. Wow.
I guess it's the Baltimore accent.
Balmer accent.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's, man, I love it. Wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think I get more out of it just by meeting people and learning and talking business. And it might be a different business than real estate, but it's like, what are you seeing as being successful? What are you seeing as, your biggest challenges? And I'm just, going back and forth, we talked about masterminding before.
Right.
It's kind of like a mini mastermind of just like, trying to help solve each other's problems,
Your episodes remind me of my episodes when I first started.
Yeah.
Because you're keeping it local.
Right.
And there was another podcast that was doing the same thing since then. They're no longer around.
Oh, okay.
But it's great because you're building it up and you're building it up here.
Mm-hmm.
I see you soon expanding and taking it even further.
Yeah.
Just it'll build your brand, because one of the things I learned when I was keeping it local, and then I started getting guests on from other places, I started getting listeners in different states and all. And I'll never forget this. There was somebody from California got transferred out here. And because they heard my podcast, they went ahead and opened up an account with one of my sponsors.
Wow.
Because they heard it on there.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to reach out.
You just never know. And,
You don't.
There's no measurement in this of like, I'm not doing this podcast to get an immediate return. Like, if I put out this podcast, I'll get X amount of customers. That's not happening.
That's the second thing. Or third. Or whatever.
It's the long-term brand play that, people know me. They know we do a podcast. We buy and sell real estate. But when it comes time for that event to take place, then it's like, oh yeah, top of mind, whether I'm the first or second person that comes to mind, But to say that I'm doing this just to get something immediate back, like I'm not bringing.
But you love meeting the people.
I love meeting people.
Right.
I didn't bring you in today to say, okay, now give me 5 referrals.
Right, but that's what I mean. I mean, what you're doing is genuine.
Yeah.
You love what you're doing.
But I get caught up in the numbers. So, and
you talk about like the downloads and all?
The downloads, subscribers, stuff like that. Like when you're doing something, you want to see some kind of growth. And when you're measuring with podcasts, it's a very challenging, almost non-existent thing to track statistics, right? So how do you focus on like,
I love this
how
question.
do you focus on growth when you're not getting the metrics?
All right, so a couple things with this. Ignore downloads. And I always tell people this: downloads don't equal plays, don't equal views, don't equal listeners. Okay, somebody can download your episode and never even listen to it. And unfortunately, too many podcasters. That's what they focus on. What I tell everybody to look at is, well, a couple things. Number one, communicate with your listeners. Give your listeners a way to where they can reach out to you, whether it's by creating a Facebook group, whether it's by telling them at the end of each episode, let us know, what you thought about this conversation. Email me or even like with my website, they can leave a voicemail.
Okay.
So there's different things you can do. And let's see, so downloads that and man, I'm drawing a blank.
That's
here
okay.
already.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that we do. We take the longer form content of a podcast and then we clip it up into Reels or YouTube Shorts,
right,
or just little blurbs of that promote the full episode, but it's just mini chunks of content.
Yeah. Oh, that was the other thing. Okay, so instead of downloads, look to where I don't know who you're hosting. Libsyn. So will Libsyn break it down by where your listeners are via zip code, state, country, and all? Country,
not zip code. I believe it or not, shout out to the Belgian people. We've got a listener out there somewhere,
which is good.
I got a couple in Canada too. We're going global with this.
See, and that's what I focus on, because my podcast is it's carried in over 100 countries.
Okay,
it won't be carried in every country because it's explicit. I focus on that.
Like explicit, like the E symbol that like you shoot profanity on your show? Because we don't do that. But
well, I didn't used to be.
Okay.
But when we started talking to people in recovery, when they're telling their story, things are going to come out. And to me, it's, you don't want to, if you take it out, it takes away from the conversation.
The authenticity of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why, now, is every episode explicit? No. But, some of them are. All depends on which co-host I have on at the time too.
Who's the co-host with the most?
I ain't gonna mention his name. I mean, heard it. Man!
All right, it's a dude.
That's both actually. But no, focus on that and the charts. There's a app called Good Pods.
Okay.
Which you can listen to podcasts on. To me, Good Pods is a podcast app meets Billboard meets social media.
Okay.
So you have, Chartable went away. So that's gone. So now you have, I think it's Podgagement, which you can look at the charts to see where you're at. But Good Pods is excellent because that'll show you as where all the big podcasts are charting and the independent podcasts.
Interesting.
Because what you and I do are basically independent podcasts.
And I've seen you post on Facebook and on your page that, hey, I was ranked number one amongst, it's to get that kind of feedback. I'm getting nothing, right?
It's awesome. I never thought that would happen.
Yeah.
And we because I watch the charts faithfully. And we've been in the addiction category. We've been number one for almost 2 years now. We knocked out MSNBC's American Radical.
What?
Yeah,
That's
and I think that's because I think it's because of two people, Wendy from Rage Against Addiction, and Harford County Health Department. Because I would have never met Wendy if it wasn't for Harford County Health Department.
Interesting.
And we cover recovery all the time, a lot. Mental health is another thing we talk about. Business, we cover everything.
Yeah.
Authors.
Yeah.
I love talking to authors.
I do too.
Yeah.
Have you met Chad Sanchagrin? I know, right? It's a hell of a last name.
No? Is he from here?
He is. He's local Bel Air, but he just put out a book. He's met like all the big influencers. Mm-hmm. The book was so good I had to read it twice, not only because I had to interview him for the podcast and help promote it.
Right.
It was just a phenomenal book. Like it just touched me at a certain time. Chad Sanchagrin. What was the name of the book? Do you remember?
Keep Telling Yourself.
Keep Telling Yourself.
Really?
Look that up. It's a great book.
Huh.
Great book. And he would be an awesome podcast guest.
So what book are you reading now?
What book am I? I am reading Ryan Holiday's new book. He's a Stoic philosopher. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm reading that, and a book called Traction, which was recommended to me by Megan Ewing.
Okay.
On just data tracking your business.
Yeah.
So she's very logistical and,
I know.
and systems and processes, which is
She's awesome.
She's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's wow. Yeah, that's awesome. So in preparation for your podcast, we talked a little bit about it, but coming up with the subjects and coming up with the people. I mean, you're literally dropping 3 podcasts a week. Mm-hmm. Are any of those just solo episodes, or do you have a guest on every single one? And regardless, how are you getting the good people on your podcast?
So once in a while, I'll do a solo episode. Mm-hmm. All depends on what's going on. Like this year, the first episode for this year was a solo episode because celebrating 10 years.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking about doing more because of all the people that contact me about podcasting. So I'm thinking about dropping some solo episodes about tips and advice. Mm-hmm. Still up in the air.
Okay.
But as far as guests, and I'm sure you've ran into this. This is my biggest struggle, especially when I started keeping it local, was people that didn't show up. And you never heard from them.
See, I haven't had that problem yet. I've only had late, but it's like, but then that funnels to the next guest, you know?
And it could be where I was recording too, because so June 1st, I start growing the beard because I play Santa Claus professionally. So when
Santa, I know him.
So when I record at the clubhouse there, it's up in the woods, and this has happened to me 3 times. I'll park there and I'll stand outside waiting for my co-host to come up, or not co-host, but my guest to come up. 3 separate times, 3 separate women. I see a car pulling up, and they turn around and they pull out. It's like, okay, either they made the wrong turn or that's my guest, and they decided no.
On second thought.
Yeah. So each time I contacted them, I said, was that you coming up here? Well, yeah, but we saw some homeless guy out there. It's like, That was me. So they literally turned around and left. I'm
Santa homie.
now I learned to have, if I have a co-host with me, to have them stand up there with me or have more cars. I was like, wow. But I mean, it's going to happen sometimes, especially because I record virtually a lot.
Yeah.
And there are things that happen. Like I had a couple guests, last month, I guess, was the fires out in LA?
Yeah, January.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they couldn't come on.
Uh-huh.
Because I get guests on from all around the world. Here locally, I was reaching out to people, or I would put posts out and they would contact me.
Mm-hmm.
The ones around the world, I use a program or a service called Podmatch. Greatest thing I ever found when it comes to guests.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Because the different guests that I'm getting and the knowledge that they're passing on is phenomenal.
Wow.
It's crazy. And it allows me to, when I go in there, I can put different things. Like I'm looking for a guest that has been in addiction. I'm looking for authors. I'm looking for children's authors or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I can go and change that at any time.
Okay.
And that's how all these guests come on. I've had actors come on. I've had...
it's almost like the Indeed or LinkedIn of podcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I'll just... Who was it that just came up here? You remember Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop?
No.
Oh, come on. You don't remember that little lamb chop puppet? No? Anyway, so Sherry
Showing
Lewis...
your age there, Rich.
I know. Sherry Lewis passed away. Her daughter does it now, and I saw that she was coming up to Harvard Community College.
Oh.
It's like, that'd be cool to talk to her. So I just reached out, and I didn't expect a return.
Yeah.
But within a couple hours, she returned and said, yeah, I would love to come on.
Yeah.
And now, granted, remember what I said about Evergreen?
Uh-huh.
Of course, she was, even though we were talking about her mom and what she does now, then she's pushing the show. It's like, okay, well, nobody's going to listen to this after the show. But, yeah, I mean, people, sometimes it's just like sales. Don't be afraid of the no.
Right.
Reach out to people.
More people are willing to come on as a guest, even though they're nervous about it. I feel like there's so many people that come in, they're like nervous about what's going to happen. You know, but there's more people that say yes than no.
Yeah. And the ones that are nervous, at least with me, and you're comfortable too. You make people comfortable. When they're done, they're like, wow, that was easy.
Just a conversation.
Can I come on again?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean, you're it's fine with me.
Yeah.
And I'll do that a lot. If I see somebody's comfortable with it and I think that they could do their own podcast, I'll ask if they want to co-host. Mm-hmm. And I'll do that so my co-host will eventually start their own podcast. I don't want all of them to, but I mean, it's like they leave me, but you know.
Right.
But no, Podmatch has been great. And I've even had people on from like Colorado that sell real estate and all that.
Okay.
And it is cool.
Yeah, that's wild.
Cool, yeah. And the people, and we were talking about networking before we started.
Yeah.
I built a network of all these people, and now we're friends on Facebook and other social media platforms, and we kicking ideas back and forth around from each other. And it's funny because I even had my great niece ask me the other day, she goes, who's the most famous celebrity you've had on? I said, well, define celebrity.
Sure.
Because, I mean, you may think, she said John Cena. I said, no, I've never had John Cena on.
There you go. But, now that's a name I know.
Okay. I said, but I have had another wrestler on that was in WWE. She goes, you did?
Yeah.
She didn't know who I was talking about.
Okay.
I said, but no, I've had authors on. I said, musicians, actors. Mm-hmm. You've had actors on? I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I said, so you really can't define celebrity and famous,
right?
Because there's different fields of it.
Yeah.
You know, so, but no, I can hook you up with guests. I'm going to be hooking you up with guests, Tim. Never mind. Let me take that back. I'll be hooking you up with guests.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're all these different resources. I'm going to have to rewatch this so that I can actually write them down, and you know,
I can send you links too. I mean, it's great. And the thing is, actually, do you ever record virtually, or is it always in person?
Most of the time in person. I've done one with, and I know you know her, Paige Mulhausen.
Oh,
Yeah.
Paige was one of my co-hosts.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Had to move.
We to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Jeez, she'll be watching this. She knows both of us. She'll be watching.
She's a sweetheart.
We're jealous. It's still cold here
I'm
in
upset.
Maryland.
I want her to just come up anytime if I reach out to her, say, Paige, you got a co-host. I want her to jump on a plane and come up.
That's right. That's
for
right.
an hour episode.
That girl's got so much energy and just
She
positivity and just a light of sunshine.
She's awesome.
Yeah. What's been the most rewarding aspect of, or whether it was an interview, whether it's just like the day to day, what's the most rewarding thing that you find with doing podcasts?
The education, learning, just learning from all my guests.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all the different authors I've had on their books. Because when I get an author on, there's a couple things that I do and don't do. I don't read their book before they come on.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
Larry King never did.
Interesting.
Yeah, because and I've heard this on other podcasts where the author reads the book first, and I was so upset listening to this one. Had an author coming on, so I go back and listen to other episodes or other podcasts they've done. Podcast was probably about 45 minutes long. The author maybe got, if they were lucky, 12 minutes in of speaking, because the host more or less gave the book away.
Right.
Told everything about the book.
It's almost like watching a preview to a movie, and
It was worse.
I
It
just
was
saw
like
the whole movie.
Yeah, it's like
Why do I need to watch it now?
right. So my thing is, I want the author to sell me on the book, because if they're selling me on the book, they're selling my listeners. My listeners haven't read the book yet,
Right.
so I don't want to.
Yeah.
Now I may scan through it real quick to ask some things, but one of the things I love to learn from authors is their writing technique, how long it took to write the book, publishing, whether they're self-published, went through a publisher, whether they had an agent, and the marketing part.
Yeah.
Because I love the term authorpreneur. You're an author, you own a business now,
Yep.
so you need to build it up, and now I'm working on a book, and it's not easy. It's
I see that. I've always thought about maybe writing a book, but it's years in the making.
well, not really.
No?
Think about it.
Or I could just put it in a chat GPT. And,
You already got a book. Think of all the different guests you've had on
true.
and
Yeah.
tell their stories.
And tell their stories, yeah.
Because that's what I was going to do originally.
Yeah.
And then I changed direction, so that one went out the window.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I mean, just the learning, the education is probably the biggest reward I've gotten out of it, and giving back. I love to mentor other podcasters.
Yeah.
Love to.
But you're also involved in a lot of charity too. I've seen like you definitely have an attachment to addiction.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So what are some of the local charities that you're most involved with?
Well, I've been a member of the Joppatown Lions Club for, oh my God, 25 years plus.
Okay.
Been president for like 8 years now.
Wow.
Of course, in the Legion. And I've been involved with nonprofits since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
We had, my cousin had Down syndrome. So we were, and my other cousin helped, I'm going to forget the lady's name, the Kennedy, helped start the Maryland Special Olympics here.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
we were always
Yep.
huggers.
Okay.
We always did that.
Yeah.
I had a good friend of mine that had muscular dystrophy.
Mm-hmm.
So as I got older and I was DJing, we would raise money for muscular dystrophy.
Okay.
Was involved with another local nonprofit, which is no longer around, called Open Doors Career Center. And at the time, I was teaching seniors.
Mm-hmm.
I was teaching seniors to go in and teach the seniors at senior centers how to use the internet and email. Now I'm one of them seniors. But I've been involved with them. Rage Against Addiction, definitely without a doubt, because I've known so many people that have gone through it and that are in recovery. I've lost friends, family members to addiction. Humane Society,
Okay.
of course, Hartford Family House. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah. And you're promoting you promote a lot of those things on your podcast, on Hartford County Living Facebook page and other things.
Yeah, big on the Michael J. Fox Foundation, because I've known a lot
Parkinson's?
of people. Yeah, that's the one thing I still DJ every year. Even though I retired from DJing, there's a local business where the owner had Parkinson's, and they do a fundraiser every year, and we'll donate the money to the Michael J. Fox Foundation. So we always donate our time DJing for that.
Okay.
And there's Rage Against Addiction. If they need a DJ, we'll donate our time for that. And Freedom's the other one. But no, I've always believed to where you need to give back. You should give back.
Yeah.
And I've even told my kids this, and they've seen me do it, where I don't care if you're walking down the road and you got the last $10 in your pocket. If you see somebody else that needs it more, give it to them.
Right.
Yeah. And I've even had somebody call me and say, well, we never see you posting about it on social media. I don't need to. Why?
Right.
I mean, my thing is,
I think the only thing that one positive that I can get out of, like a lot of people would say, you're showboating or you're trying to make yourself look good, but then where's that balance on the other side of, like, when you're promoting those kinds of things, you're motivating or inspiring others to get involved and do those kind of things as well.
True, and I will do that once in a while.
Okay.
But most of the stuff that I'll post, it isn't the monetary donation, it's the time.
Right.
Because a lot of these organizations cannot find volunteers. And to me, that's the biggest thing you can always give back. Time is more valuable than money.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Human capital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm always volunteering my time.
Right.
Always. I mean, I sit on 7 different boards.
Jeez.
Yeah. Which is funny. So a buddy of mine, I kept trying to get him in the Lions Club for the longest time. And he's like, Rocker, I'm on 7 boards. If I ever drop down, I'll come on. So he comes on, and what happens? I get on 7 boards. I'm like,
yeah.
But
you love it.
I do.
You love it. You can tell.
I even said, I told my wife, because my wife's like, you're never home. You're always going to these meetings. I said, well, I know. So I said a couple years ago, I said, I'm going to step down from 2 boards and knock it down to 5.
Yeah.
So I did. And got on 2 other boards. So I guess 7's the magic number.
Do you struggle with saying no?
I do. That's something I've learned to do now with certain things. But when it comes to, volunteering my time, it's still a struggle.
Yeah.
There's just sometimes you can't do it.
Right.
But I feel bad.
Yeah.
Because you feel, when you volunteer your time and you see something change, you feel so good. It's like, I always say, it's like the Grinch, how his heart grew so big.
Right.
And that's what it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no more boards, honey, I promise.
We're recording. Are you listening?
I'm in trouble now.
Mrs. Bennett. What's Dan Ben? I saw this on your I guess it was social media or what is Dan Ben?
So remember I told you this may have been before we started. When I got out of radio, I went into car sales. When I was working at WXCY, something about going into a car dealership I loved. So when I left WXCY, I got into the car business, and I was in the car business for 10 years. And well, you know how commission works. It's hard to budget your money at times.
Right.
And we hit a hard time in the car business. And computers were making a big thing, the IT field. And my brother-in-law approached me, kept trying to talk me into going in to work at a company he worked at. It's like, I don't even know how to get on the internet. I don't know anything about computers. So, make a long story short, I said, all right. Gave him my resume, got the interview, sat there with the guy for an hour and a half. They asked me when I could start. So I started working for this company. That company later on merged with another company. And you know how mergers work. So people started getting fired and all. And then that company went belly up. So I got into another field. So I was in the IT field for probably, I left Thompson in 98, I guess. And got out of the IT field. It was it was not long after 9/11 happened. And it's like, well, I know how to work on computers now. I can build them and everything. I was struggling trying to find a place to work.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, let me start my own business. So Dan Ben started out as computer repair. Danny is my son.
Okay.
And Ben, short for Bennett. So Dan Ben.
Okay.
And then I was also designing websites on the side. So I started doing that. And then I did that for years, especially the computer repair. I stopped doing computer repair because I want to say I'm too honest. If I went to somebody's house to fix their computer, and if it was the system board or something, it's like, for what you're doing on your computer, you're better off just buying a new computer.
Just as fast as technology progresses, it's like by the time your computer goes belly up, it's completely obsolete,
So I got out of that, focused on web hosting, internet marketing, and now it's I don't do the web design anymore.
Okay.
I'll do internet marketing once in a while, mainly for myself.
Yeah.
And I'll pass it on to somebody else, another company. Same with the web design now. For years, I was doing web design, and I stopped doing it because of time. And it's because Harford County Living, that website I'm constantly having to post news to it and all that.
Yeah.
So I was telling everybody to go see Patrick Chambers.
Yep.
Web IXI.
Yep.
And now I got a partner in that field now. So, but that's what Dan Ben is. I still have it. So Harford County Living falls under Dan Ben, because Harford County Living is basically just a website.
Right.
So that falls under the business Dan Ben.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'll probably make Harford County Living a business or a nonprofit.
Well, Harford County Living, and you got the Rich Bennett Conversations with Rich Bennett podcast, and this is a full-time job for you.
Yeah.
And you found a way to kind of monetize what you're doing. You've created a business around this. How have you done that, and any recommendations as I continue on in my podcast journey as far as being able to provide enough value where somebody's willing to pay money for something? Like how are you creating that as a source of income?
So I was fortunate because I started Harford County Living in 2012. So I was using the advertising structure, selling ads.
Okay.
I was getting some, but it was hard. And then I started the podcast 2015, got my first sponsor. And what I did, because Harford County Living fell under Dan Ben, so my business plan was still under Dan Ben. So I put together a new business plan for Harford County Living and the podcast, and put together some ideas. And I went and pitched the podcast to people. And first I changed the advertising structure. I just decided with Harford County Living, instead of having monthly ads, do sponsorships, annual sponsorships, and that sponsorship package has a lot of stuff in it.
Okay.
So I would go and pitch my idea to local businesses. And the biggest struggle I had was a lot of businesses didn't know what a podcast was. Okay. So I had to explain it to them. Excuse me. Something I tell a lot of podcasters, if they want to get, all right, so a couple of things. Now I'm going to talk strictly about the podcast. If you want to monetize your podcast, number one, and you want to get sponsors like I do, number one, don't use a free hosting platform, because to me that's a slap in the face to the sponsor. Okay. The other thing is too, as you know, nothing's free. So let's say you get a sponsor for your podcast, and you want to always do a host read ad, meaning that just like we're doing here, talk about them doing it. Okay. Because that people already trust you. Yeah. Otherwise, they wouldn't be listening to your podcast. And only bring on a sponsor that you trust, that has integrity. I'd look at the reviews and everything. Okay. And all my sponsors, I have either used or will use, or I will recommend to people. If I wouldn't recommend them, they're not going to be a sponsor. Right. Because I'm putting my name behind him. So the problem with free hosting, if you're talking about your sponsor in the middle of your episode, all of a sudden that hosting platform could throw an ad in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Libsyn doesn't do that, do they?
No.
Okay.
Libsyn's a paid source.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, because Libsyn was one of the ones I was looking to go to. When I started my podcast, I was hosting it myself.
Okay.
Big mistake. And then when I decided, it's like, no, I need to find a hosting platform. I was looking at Libsyn, maybe I forget the other one, and Buzzsprout.
Okay.
And I decided to go with Buzzsprout.
Okay.
But I actually checked. Libsyn may allow you to insert dynamic content. Buzzsprout does that, so I can create like a 30-minute ad. This is good if you don't have sponsors. Let's say you want to sell monthly ads.
Okay.
You can sell that monthly ad and insert it anywhere, either in the beginning, middle, or end of every episode.
Okay.
At least that's what my hosting platform allows me to do.
Okay, gotcha.
So anyway, so you put together your business plan and go out and pitch it. Tell them what you're keeping it local, which is good.
Right.
That's your thing. And what sponsors really love, tell them that they could be the exclusive sponsor for an episode. And when they ask what that means, tell them that means that ad will never go away. I'm talking about your company in the middle of the episode. And it'll be there tomorrow, 5 years from now, 10 years. As long as that podcast is always up there, it's always going to be there. You can't do that in radio or TV.
Right. That's true.
Or even print.
Yeah.
Well, you can do it in print, but provided that it's not laying on the bottom of the birdcage or anything, and people can still read it. So, I mean, that's one of the things that I always suggest. And people say, well, what about money? How much do I ask for?
How much you charge?
Yeah. What are you worth?
Right.
And you got to break it down. You got to look, like with me, I'm a solopreneur, so I do all the work myself.
Right.
So I have to break it down. What are my expenses? And then what do I want to make after that? Well, what I want to make after that, how many sponsors is it going to take for me to bring on?
Gotcha.
And then once I hit that number, I'm done. Everything's locked.
Yeah.
You know, I won't bring any more sponsors on because to me, it's not fair to the sponsors. I'm taking away time from them.
Yeah.
And loyalty is another thing. My sponsors, every year they renew, I always throw in something extra. And my rates are locked in for the life, for as long as they're
a sponsor.
Yeah. So even
what
10
kind
years
of
from now.
things are you throwing in every year?
So more podcast episodes, like they'll be, which helps.
You'll have a sponsor come on and do a podcast episode.
Oh, that too.
With them.
Yeah. My sponsors come on anytime they want.
Okay.
Some of them co-host with me.
Okay.
You know, if they co-host with me, usually they're the sponsor for that episode. Not always,
right?
But most of the time they are. I'll throw in more banner ads on the website. One of the things I'm working on now for my podcast website, I don't host that one myself. I'm using a service called Podpage.
Okay.
Because this way it just pulls off the RSS feed.
Yeah.
So there's a lot I don't have to do, which I love. But I talked to the owner. I had a meeting with the owner not too long ago, and I told him how I would love to be able to put display ads on there. So he's going to look into a way to do that. Chesapeake Podcast Network, the other website I have.
Yep.
I have right now. It's just the exclusive sponsors that have an ad on that, and there's other things I'm working on to help them. The other thing I always tell my sponsors, if something's not working, please let me know. Okay. Because if it's not working for you, then it's not working for me. I need to know what to do in order to make it work for you.
Right.
If you're not getting people calling, then I need to look at the ad that I'm running.
Yeah.
Now, if I see a lot of people are clicking on the ad, but they're not calling, all right, what link am I using to direct them to your website? Because it may not be the ad. It may be something with the website.
Sure.
So it could be on your end. You know, it's that's one of the things I love about advertising. I've always loved advertising. When I got out of it from radio, I did miss it.
Yeah.
Which is why, I started Hartford County Living. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, this is a new channel. It was like me working at WXCY for the first time again.
Yeah.
selling something brand new.
Right.
And I just love a challenge.
Yeah.
I love a challenge, but I love helping people. We just talked about this on the network group not too long ago.
Okay.
People kept asking me, well, Rich, how do I get sponsors?
Yeah.
Go ask. Yeah. Go ask. Hit the local businesses. And somebody said, well, yeah, but, like if you're a podcast, why would somebody want their name heard around the world? Why wouldn't they?
Right.
Exactly.
Why wouldn't you?
If that's the case, you wouldn't have a website or anything.
Right.
I mean, people move here.
Yeah.
We have military here.
when you're trying to get that sale of somebody buying an advertising from you or a sponsorship, do you show them again, it kind of goes back to the data. Sometimes people would want to know, well, how many listeners are you getting? How do you marry that? Or people don't really.
I go back, I've really never had anybody ask me, but I tell them that we're in this many countries.
Okay.
Our strongest listener base is still Harford County. I'll show them where we're at on the charts.
And you can show them the number. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
You did say the charts, but then you can also show the metrics that things like Facebook or Instagram can.
Yeah.
Can
I can show them how many followers we have
Yeah.
on social media. I'm going to say it may be 30,000 or something. I think. I don't know.
Jeez.
I mean, that's all combined. But keep in mind, social media is tricky, man.
Oh, it is.
It's very true. And matter of fact, I'm working on something new for my sponsors. And I just had a meeting yesterday with the company. It's in relation to SiriusXM. And I've tried it for my podcast, and this is where I get most of my listeners, by advertising on another podcast. Because think about it, they're already listening.
Right.
So I tried it last year for one of my sponsors. I created an ad, and you ever look at Facebook ads?
Yeah.
How you can pinpoint certain where you want it to be?
Yes.
This program I'm using is the same.
Okay.
So I can say, well, if people are in Harford County and they're listening to a podcast, I can have your ad play on that.
Yeah.
And I tested it, and I was shocked. Matter of fact, because when I had my meeting yesterday, I'm looking at it'll show you how many times your ad played on this podcast.
Okay.
And I'm looking at some of the podcasts. I'm like, I was on Josh Hartman's podcast. Are you serious?
Wow.
I mean, if you're a podcaster, a lot of these, if you follow podcasts, a lot of these podcasts.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I didn't. It ain't no wonder I get more listeners.
That's pretty
because
cool.
This company is pushing it out to.
Yeah.
And so I tried it with one of my sponsors last year, and I didn't tell them because I wanted to see if it worked.
Yeah.
And I just said, hey, have you been getting more calls or anything? He said, yeah. I said, okay, I'm trying something. I'm looking at the numbers that they gave me. I just wanted to make sure you were getting calls.
That's cool.
So
yeah.
That's one thing. It's with podcasts, and podcasting is tricky to get more listeners. I mean, I still post on social media, but most of my listeners are going to come from other podcasts.
Wow.
Because that's where they're already at.
Interesting. Yeah, I never
even
so
thought
that.
When you come to the next networking group for the podcast network, it's one of the things we're going to talk about.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm in. I can't imagine having to produce all this of what we're doing. I can't.
Love it.
The fact that you do it, and you, like you said, like when you originally got into the computer business, the technology, like you didn't know much about computers, but I have an idea. I'm not going to say I have a full education in it because that's my boy Drew over there. He's got the skills. I could not imagine having to edit, produce, and push this out to all the social media platforms. That's people ask, how do you do it all? Drew. Drew.
Well, keep in mind when I was in radio, I'm going back a long time ago because we didn't have the MP3 was not a thing.
Yeah,
I was still using what was called carts, which looked like the old 8-track tape players, reel-to-reels, and albums. That's what we were using. So people would send in shows. The way we had to edit those shows was on reel-to-reel, and we'd have to splice it.
Yeah.
So that's how I learned editing. And then when I started the podcast, oh my God. It's like, oh, wait a minute, I can just highlight this section, hit delete. I love this.
Right.
You know, Drew, it's... Oh.
But how many times did you have to make mistakes before you actually, like, you probably learn constantly through the mistakes, through the failures.
I still am.
You talked about where they didn't start the camera or something like that, or the camera broke down.
Yeah, the camera wasn't
I
working.
literally interviewed... I had somebody from Core Bar and Yoga. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Kelly.
Yes.
Yeah, Kelly Backer.
Yep, Kelly Backer. And I got all the way to the end. I'm like, son of a gun. I didn't hit the record button.
Oh,
and
God.
all the audio was from the camera that we were using, which was not a good camera at the time.
Oh, I've had some nightmares.
Yeah.
So we did Joe Ayler, Tar Heel Construction Group.
Okay. Yep.
So Joe co-hosts with me, and he said he gave the idea of doing a podcast on living a fulfilled life.
Uh-huh.
Joe, I'm calling you out. I'm sorry, brother. Love you.
Joe, could you subscribe to the podcast? All right.
So it was 5 of us
Uh-huh.
sitting around, and we recorded in the afternoon because my wife's cousin's husband wanted to come off from Mississippi, and he wanted to be on the podcast. I was like, okay, fine. No, not a problem. I love it. And somebody had the bright idea, well, you should make us old fashions. Okay. So I made everybody old fashions except for me. And great episode. I think it was like an hour and a half of recording.
Yeah.
And when I went to edit the episode, I'm listening. I upload everything, and Drew will know what I'm talking about here. So separate microphones. So I had 5 separate tracks.
Yep.
I upload everything. I'm like, it's only 4 tracks.
Oh, no.
Did I miss? Wait a minute. Let me look at my folder again. All right, what's wrong here? There's only 4 tracks. So I'm listening to them separately. It's like, where's Joe's track? What is going on here? So I think somehow or another Joe turned his microphone off.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, thank God we were at a round table.
Yep.
So Joe was sitting between me and my buddy Everson.
Okay.
And it 8 hours, Tim, 8 hours of editing because I had to pull Joe's voice from them.
Yes.
And keep increasing it, playing with everything. But it was funny.
Well, at least you were able to put it out still.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I mean, there's times, especially when you record virtually, and I've had to do this. I've had to ask a guest, can we record again? Because just stuff wasn't, and it was their end. It was on their end. Bad internet or whatever. But sometimes you just can't put out the content because even though it's great content, if you can't hear it, or things keep cutting out,
right? Yeah, there's a difference between it's really bad versus just being judgmental to say I didn't sound good or I stuttered or skipped over my words.
One of the things I used to do, especially when we were recording in person, when I first started, I would hit the record button and not let anybody know that we had started.
Oh,
and especially
we should have did that for this episode.
Well, especially if somebody's nervous about coming on,
right?
So, and it's funny because people that aren't used to coming on a podcast think it's live.
Okay.
And of course, you got to be careful because a lot of times I'll tell the people it's not live, it's Memorex. And the younger Drew's like, what is that?
Yeah.
A lot of these younger people don't know what Memorex is.
Yeah.
But then we'll get into it.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I comfort people with when they are nervous. It's like, look, if we screw up, if we fumble, we can simply stop and he'll be able to cut that out, and we'll go back and rephrase the question, whatever it needs to be done. So
I mean, you're going to make mistakes. It happens with the editing. Man, it's become a lot easier now. Like I said, when I first started, I think I was telling you this before we started recording. I would record a 1-hour episode. It would take me 8 hours plus to edit it.
Yeah.
Now, especially with the program I'm using, and AI, wow.
AI is pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's when I use Hindenburg Pro. So, and I have separate tracks, and it allows me to, so a lot of the tracks I already record, like the intro, the outro, and all of that, and even the commercials for the sponsors. Mm-hmm. And I keep them separate, and then I have a template. So the only thing I got to upload, first what I upload is the conversation. save that conversation after I edit it, just upload it right away to the main template, and move it a little bit here and there. Add in my sponsor, transcribe. The program I'm using has a transcription button,
Right.
so it transcribes it and each track separately. Save it as a text, and then put the names in, and then I upload that into AI. And it'll read the transcript, and it helps me so much easier with the show notes.
The description.
And writing the blog.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is a godsend.
I'm doing. There's a. I think it's called cursive CURSIV, which is like you learn an app a day of AI apps. Things that I'm learning right now are incredible. It's like a $50 course on Facebook or something like that.
Have they mentioned Claude yet?
I haven't heard that. I'm at the very, very beginning.
Okay, Claude's another great.
Dolly, Jasper AI, ChatGPT, and one other one I can't remember. But yeah, it's
Jasper's
amazing.
old. So Jasper originally was one of the main search engines, and now of course it's AI. I guess it's the same Jasper.
Yeah,
looks like a butler.
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
That's actually the very next course that I'm about to dive into. So
being a butler,
Jasper AI, yeah, butler too. Yeah. All right. I'm a big reader. Are you a big reader?
I'm reading an awesome book right now.
Because you asked me what I was been reading. What are you currently reading?
I'm currently reading The Law of Success. Napoleon Hill.
Okay. Yep.
Written in 1928. I put a post about it. It's like sometimes you just got to go back and reread stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And the funny thing, now keep in mind, Napoleon Hill, one of the first books I read, which was not recommended by school, was Think and Grow Rich? Yeah, Think and Grow Rich. And the other one that I read was How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
Loved them. Great. But I was only like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
So I had no idea.
Yep.
And then I had somebody on the show recently. That episode hadn't posted yet. And guy's phenomenal, man. Phenomenal when it comes to social media, it's sales. He sold real estate and everything.
Okay.
And now him and his wife have just been traveling around in their RV, and he's young. He's probably in his 30s, I guess.
Wow.
And went through a course I think Ryan Stewman offered, and he wrote a book, and that's how I found him. He approached me through that company pie match I was telling you about.
Interesting.
Wanted to promote his new book called The Damn Leads.
Yeah.
Something that a lot of salespeople are afraid to do for some reason.
Yep.
And when we were done, he was, Tim, I'm not lying. I mean, this guy was he was right. He was good.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of social media followers and everything. He does. So I went to his website. He's like, I'm going to buy all 4 of his books. And I did. And I finished reading the one. It's like, I need to go back. And I ordered The Law of Success, the deluxe version, and that's what I'm reading now.
Okay.
And then after I read that, I'm probably going to jump into one of his books.
Okay.
I love, and it's funny because it's the first time I've read a physical book in a long time.
Yeah.
Because my daughter told me if I listen to books, it's not the same as reading. I was like, well, authors told me it is. No, you're not turning the pages. You're not. It's psychological. It's like, oh God, whatever.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's. I recommend anybody in business, actually anybody, period.
Yeah.
Read that.
What's one podcast that you listen to outside of yourself that because you listen to that on loop, you know?
But you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, and
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of podcasters miss the boat too.
Yeah.
Listen to your own podcast.
Yeah.
Because especially you may miss something in the past,
I
or you might want to bring somebody
do
back
it.
on.
I do it in a way of like evaluating how it sounded, you know.
Yeah.
Or sometimes like you've been dropping a lot of names and dropping a lot of different sources. I'll go back and I'll listen and I'll write that stuff down.
Yeah.
You know. But what's one podcast that really something that you listen to on a regular basis?
On a regular basis?
Yeah.
Well, the obvious is Rogan.
Yeah.
I love listening.
He is
to
the
Joe
master of
Rogan.
the interview.
I listen to your podcast. There's one of my mentors. does one called Podcasting Made Simple. He's the one that founded, one of the founders of Podmatch.
Okay.
He also started a networking group, and I listen to him a lot. Call the Damn Leads. I started listening to. There's a lot of different podcasts out there I'll listen to. Two young ladies I had on, and they just rebranded their podcast. It was called Two Girls with Cancer, out of Canada, but two phenomenal women, and they just changed the name.
You're blanking?
No, I love it. It's now Two Girls Without Cancer.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Brad's, of course, Mouthful of Graffiti. I listen to him. Anybody that if they give me credit for helping them launch, or if I had something to do with it, I like listening to them.
Sure.
Derek Pence is another one. I listen to his. There's just so many out there.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, podcasts are growing, but at the same time, they're not, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Explain. All right, so during COVID, I think before COVID, there was, and I may not be completely accurate, 400 or 700,000 podcasts out there. COVID hit, that number jumped up to 7 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that number is down. I think it's down to 4 million, but out of that 4 million, some podcasts, only like maybe 300,000 some are active.
Okay.
So they, was it 4.98% of people that started podcasts are successful. It's easier to start your own business than a podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
Because people don't realize how hard it is.
It's difficult.
Oh, yeah.
It's slow going, especially in the beginning.
It is.
You're episode 64, which is a pretty good number.
I thought you were over that.
No, it's just 64.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We've put a lot of other content out there.
Right,
But
okay.
for the podcast itself is episode 64. And it's just been slow moving, Yeah. But I'm in it for the long haul. It's just the long-term play,
And sometimes you got to take a break.
Yeah.
I mean, I've taken breaks before.
Consistency is so important now.
Consistency is important. And you can always repurpose the old content too.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? Almost 700 episodes, I think.
Oh,
that I have
wow.
out. Yeah. I was like, really?
700. Sure.
Yeah, I don't think I hit 700 yet, but I'm getting close.
You're getting close.
It.
Well, that's because you're the OG.
But listen to him, man. But you drop 3 episodes a week.
Yeah.
You're staying consistent.
Right.
And it's just learning,
consistency,
man.
I think, is probably... Consistency and discipline is probably the most important thing to this business, to doing a podcast.
Is a very big thing.
It's so easy to just say, I don't want to record today.
Yeah.
And then that turns into a week to another week to another week. And all of a sudden, last year, we did two podcasts in like February. We didn't release them until April. This is when I didn't have Drew.
Right.
And then when we brought Drew on, now I feel obligated to him to make sure that I'm consistent and dropping one a week.
Well, and that's the other thing too. When you're talking about how to get sponsors or how to monetize your podcast, there's another thing you can do. So if you have so many if you're only dropping once a week, but you have, let's say, 30 some episodes already recorded, and somebody wants to say, "Look, Tim, I need that episode pushed out." Offer a jump the line feature.
Okay.
Where they have to pay to jump the line.
Huh.
There's so many things you can do to monetize your podcast.
Right.
And I don't want to give away too much because then people won't buy my book when I write it.
I'll be buying your book.
But I'll give you one. So, but there are so many.
Signed copy too, please.
That's a funny thing, man. So
I've had 3 authors, and I've gotten 2 signatures, signed copies. It's awesome.
It is. And for an author it's the first author I had on, I'll never forget. It's like, well, can you autograph my book? Really?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, why not? Because but a lot of authors don't think it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not even a bestseller yet.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
I think it's awesome.
It is.
The process, the discipline.
Man.
Yeah. What's a daily habit that is a non-negotiable for you on a daily basis? Daily habit. Go figure.
Daily habit is non-negotiable?
Yeah, habit that you have that is non-negotiable. You have to do it every day or most days.
I would say just my morning routine when I wake up and when I go to bed.
Yeah.
I mean, when so back when I was still in the IT world, we lost our first daughter, and she was stillborn, so I was able to put a little angel in her hand.
Uh-huh.
So I keep that next to my bedstand. So every night before I go to bed, I grab it, I say a prayer.
Yeah.
My daughter now she's 23, good Lord. We were walking through the park or something, and she found this rock, and it almost looks like a heart, and she gave it to me. She was I forget how old she was at the time. She was little. So I call it my grateful rock.
Okay.
So now every morning when I wake up, I pick up my angel, I'll say a prayer, and then I grab my rock from my other daughter and say something I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
Get up, make the coffee, get my cup. Once the coffee's done brewing, I go downstairs, I start working.
Okay.
Right away. So I usually get up anywhere between 4 and 5.
Okay.
And then bedtime's the same thing. Even with my wife, that's non-negotiable. That's a morning routine and a night routine that I do faithfully.
Sure.
I mean, it helps because I'm starting off the day in a positive way.
Right.
And it helps when you say not just what you're grateful for, but why you're grateful for it. A lot of people can say what they're grateful for, but why are you grateful for it? And meditating. Yeah. Meditating. I think, and I do that usually before I go to bed. I'll meditate. Other than that, I think I answered. I hope I answered that question.
You did because I got to do non-negotiables each day just to keep my frame of mind,
keep your mindset right.
In the zone and healthy and positive. Because with the peaks and valleys of real estate, man, that can drive you nuts sometimes.
It usually says something right there, which is a big difference too in healthy. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, when I started losing the weight and I could see my toes again.
Right.
You just feel so much better and you can get more done.
Yeah.
Sometimes even that honey-do list.
Oh, jeez. That's hilarious. Yeah. I got some things I got to do after the podcast. If people want to connect with you, I mean, shoot, they know you better than they know me, but my audience, I want to introduce them to you and what you're doing. Where can people follow you?
Well, ignore the picture hanging up in the post office. No, I'm joking.
Want it.
Is that still a thing? I don't even know if it's still a thing.
Does anybody even go to the post office anymore?
I don't know. Yeah. And I'm not on the back of milk cartons either. No, a couple of different ways. Either HartfordCountyLiving.com or ConversationsWithRichBennett.com, and all my contacts are on there. Or just email rbennett@HartfordCountyLiving.com. But remember, it's Hartford, not Hartford.
Yes. You got to know.
I can't tell you how many times I've had even people that live here.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they'll spell it with a T. It's like, no.
Yeah.
It's Hartford.
And of course, the podcast Conversations with Rich Bennett is everywhere you can download a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Carried in 100 different countries. And it's funny because I never thought the podcast would be this way, but somebody suggested that I rebrand it.
Yeah.
And here I am on a realtor show, and I was told because Hartford County Living with Rich Bennett sounds like it should be a real estate show.
Oh.
I was like, Christy, you're right.
Yeah.
And she suggested that I change the name to Conversations with Rich Bennett.
Okay.
So first I had to check with my sponsors. If my sponsors were okay for me changing the name, then I would ask the listeners, which was a mistake because some of the names they came up with are scary. So Christy Breslin recommended that I change the name to Conversations with Rich Bennett, and when I did that, it just went through the roof.
Wow.
Went through the roof. Got people from everywhere that wanted to come. I mean, I've had people on from England, Australia, Get a lot of people from Canada.
That's wild.
Yeah. Was it Spain, Portugal, different, years ago, I mean, the only way you could talk to people in other countries, even other states, was by phone, and it was long distance.
Yeah.
Now you can do it virtually for free.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not for free. You got to pay for it. Well, you still, so I mean, platforms you can do it for free, but it's a blast. But keep looking at the charts. I think you are listed on Good Pods.
Really?
If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
I'll have to go check that out.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
And if you're not on the charts yet, we'll fix that.
Well, I'm going to be on there. Well, now that I've had you on there, now
we're going to fix
this
that.
is going global, baby.
And then we're going to get you some guests that you want that you haven't been able to get in touch with.
Yeah.
If you ever want to go virtual and talk to guests outside of here, let me know as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in your field.
Yeah.
And if you would just want to talk to people to learn, there's a lot of people I can hook you up with, man.
I just feel like when every once in a while we'll talk real estate on the show.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's really just trying to go into different genres of business and picking each other's brains and,
When you talked to Megan, did you guys cover marketing at all?
A little bit, yep.
I mean, because she's a genius when it comes to that.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
And you can learn so much from her.
Yeah.
And
in fact, her podcast comes out Thursday. Yeah. So 2 days from now.
The episode with you.
The episode with me
okay.
And we recorded about a week or two ago.
Okay.
Is actually dropping on Thursday. So
okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant she was starting her own, because she was doing her own for a while.
They have a podcast studio at Hartford Haven Studios.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
That's one of my next goals is to actually, if I can't get the building, then a shed in the backyard.
Okay.
Which I'll turn into a podcast studio, and that's when I'll go video.
So do you go all Zoom or you have in-person guests?
I do in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I do in person, I'll record at the clubhouse.
Okay.
Most of and I try not to do it during the winter because the bathrooms are shut down there. Because it's.
Hey, you got to pee.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want them to tell them to find a tree or whatever. So, most of the time I record virtually a lot. Yeah. A lot. And I use a program called Squadcast for that.
Okay.
Because it's designed for podcasting. Zoom, my understanding is the bit rate when it comes to the audio sound is not as good as one for.
When I did the one with Paige from Costa Rica, the quality wasn't as good. Yeah.
But you're seeing more and more podcast platforms coming out where you can do that. Mm-hmm. I know that's a Drew thing. So Drew, look into him, man.
Exactly. Drew's the man.
There's a lot of people I can hook you up with, especially virtually and in person.
Yeah.
Well, we already know Chris Reeves. Chris, if you're listening, Chris, you better be listening to this.
That's right.
I'm going to tell you. Get in contact with Tim. He's awesome.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of good things about him. Again, I haven't met him yet, but I will be meeting him.
An old man.
What's he talking about?
I don't know.
What's he talking about?
He ain't that much younger than me.
That's right.
Maybe a lot.
Maybe.
Still.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. If you haven't been following us yet, you need to. We are at the Markland Advantage on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as every podcast platform that's out there. This has been awesome. Again, I told you at the very beginning, I've been following you for a while.
Well, thank you.
I've kind of used you in a way that you didn't know as just like a resource of like learning this thing as we go along, and we're still learning.
I appreciate that, seriously.
And yeah, I mean, it's cool what you're doing. It's I love the networking and the branding and just the community connection that you're building at Hartford County Living. The podcast is awesome. So,
well, wait till you come on mine, because I was thinking about this on the way here, and I love to do roundtable discussions. Mm-hmm. And Brad, Derek, and I have talked about doing another roundtable discussion on podcasting.
Yeah, I'm in.
I know you are. That's why I just said it.
Like I had a choice.
You ain't got a choice.
I don't have a choice. That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming in again today. Until next time, folks, live your life to the fullest. Rich Bennett, Tim Markland, we're out.
Thanks, Tim.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Did you like this episode of the TMA Connection? Well, you might want to check this one out right here. Go ahead, click it. Go ahead.